Today, another draft here on Splash Play. It's a Hero RB Monday. After we disrespected the running backs on Friday, Hero RB Friday, today we go back to the well. We commit to drafting one early running back in this room. Of course, I'm already in a draft room here. Best Ball Mania 5. We're going against the circus today, so we know how it's going to go. I'm going to get my dick kicked in views-wise. Doesn't mean I'm not going to build myself a sick team. Of course, it's always the goal here on Splash Play. Monday to Saturday, drafts at 11 a.m. And it's, again, draft number 92 for me on the year. So we are basking in draft world here. And I am picking in the 5-hole in this one. We'll see what we get on the way back. Not necessarily having to commit to a running back in the first round. I do have to take one in the first 3 rounds. So I'm probably going to punt this decision. Would have been very happy to take the man with the big new contract, Justin Jefferson, at number 5. Unfortunately, he's going number 4 to this guy. Don't mind, you know what? I don't mind Bijan. Bijan's on the thumbnail. We missed out on the contract, boy. Let's get the running back out of the way. We'll take Bijan Robinson here for our first pick. I made a big move in my Spags rankings as well this weekend, which you can see on the screen. I am now putting Bijan. I've had him ahead of Breece Hall. I've got Bijan at, well, we had it on the screen there, had him at number 7. I've got Breece Hall down at number 10 now. I am personally opting to move Breece Hall behind Puka Nacua, behind A.J. Brown. The camp reviews for Braylon Allen have been too good. They have been a thing here where the Jets have made a clear signal about wanting to get somebody in that running back room to take pressure off of Breece Hall. So they drafted Isaiah Davis. They drafted Braylon Allen. Last year, they added Izzy Abanikanda. They then added Tariq Cohen, supposedly for the new kickoff rules, but still a guy who's a running back who's in that RB room for most of his practice days. The Jets have shown a lot of signal to not want to give the same workload they gave last year to Breece Hall, where a lot of his value came in that pass game especially. So to me, with what we're seeing signal-wise, with how Braylon Allen has played as well, I think that he is live to take a few touches away from the Jets, away from Breece Hall, but also take some for himself away from the Jets running back room. So that's why I'm moving Breece Hall down. I've had these concerns. I also have concerns about the Jets offense overall. It's a team that wants to win defensively. The defensive-minded head coach is now running the offense. You know what that's not going to lead to? A really fun fantasy offense, which has never been the case anyway with Aaron Rodgers at QB. So no matter what the case is, I just don't think Breece Hall should be going ahead of Puka and A.J. Brown right now. You should go ahead of Garrett Wilson, absolutely. You should go ahead of Marvin Harrison. I'm willing to give him that. To me, Breece, I think, has to pay the price. And for my rankings, at the very least, he will pay the price now. Boomers will love Breece this season. And look, I get he's very talented. I just think that there are now enough things to point to in terms of the willfulness of the team. That is the most important part that we talk about here on Splash Play. It's about the team, what they're showing you. They show you their hands in various ways, whether it be in January, whether it be in May, whether it be over the summer, whether it be in heading into whatever the middle of the season. You're going to find out who's going to play and who's not going to play most weeks. And I think with what the Jets have shown, it's not that Breece Hall's a 30-touch back. It's that they will do everything in their power to keep him at an efficient 15 to 20. Does it mean that he can't break those 60-yard touchdowns that we love to see, the fun highlight reel plays that make him constantly top of mind for people? No, he's going to probably break more of those. But still, in terms of the regular volume we get week to week, especially that pass game volume that was the key driver of his upside, I just don't think Breece Hall is guaranteed that. And I think he is priced for the good rather than any acknowledgement of the bad. And that's the case for Garrett Wilson too, but that's a separate conversation. Morning all, beautiful day for some Splash Play. I appreciate that. Of course, all you guys who tune in live here on the Pete Overs at Monday Carnival Days, I appreciate it a bunch. Of course, bringing the great guests over on Pete's channel. And I say that not derisively. I say it just knowing that, look, I'm going to get steamrolled views-wise, but I'm still going to put on my drafts here. And I'm going to draft in a way that pleases me and hopefully puts together some good teams. This is always the goal here on Splash Play, to build sick teams every single stream. Nico Collins goes to Mr. Poopy Butthole, who for some reason thought I would be like excited that he's in the draft room, but appreciate Mr. Poopy Butthole for having a membership. Draft room wise, sure. All right, so we have Devontae Adams here. Again, a player that I'm less into just because of the fact we don't know who to stack him up with. To me, it's like a coin toss right now between Minshew and O'Connell. Debo, an okay bet. You know what? Fuck it. I'm drafting another running back. I'm going to go with 2 running backs I like a lot that I think are fun. Just not big on Devontae Adams, not big on Debo. Nico Collins goes. You can see here I've actually moved up Jalen Waddle and Devontae Smith above some other guys, which is a little bit of a hot take by me, but Waddle's not coming down. And I do think that Devontae Smith is my more appealing wide receiver two out of that group of wide receiver twos. So I did move up Waddle and Devontae Smith in my rankings. That said, to me, Nico at 20 is where you want to go. And that's unfortunately not going to be the pick we get here. Ooh-wee indeed. Ooh-wee's for Mr. Poopy Butthole. But I'm happy he got in a draft for him, and hopefully he doesn't make a habit out of it. I was watching Pete's stream before hopping into this one, though. And I have to say, we're having some pokes here about the Pete overs at Carnival, the PT Barnum of Best Ball, the best show in town here that he puts on Mondays. I do have to say one thing I did find a little arrogant is Pete saying there's no EV lost by streaming drafts. Inherently, even if you are the best drafter in the world, and I'll give Pete the credit, I think he's one of the best drafters that exists out there. I think it's kind of arrogant to say like you're not losing EV, but from the premise of, especially in May, especially in April, especially even in June, where like a guy like Pete, a guy like myself, you're doing the work of reading all the tea leaves about teams, about players. You're having these nuanced takes based upon a season. If you're drafting with people who know exactly how you feel about certain situations, yeah, sure, you could salvage a good team. But when you have a sharp draft room, like many of the times we have when you are putting together stream drafts where everybody in the community can come in, if you created a good community like Pete has at the Posit Kingdom, like we have here with the Splash Play folks and the Squirt Squad, you're going to have less good drafts because everybody in that draft then is sharper for it. And also because of the fact, too, that they know they've hopefully benefited from all the work you've put out there, telling them, hey, this guy, like, read into this, don't read into this. So I think inherently, like, you're losing EV no matter what. But I really do feel like it's one of those things where I would never say like, oh, I'm not losing anything here. You're fucking losing. It's okay. It's like you lose EV. We could all lose EV. It's a sacrifice. It's all on a sliding scale of what you're doing. Stefan Diggs falls back. We lost on Nico, so we will make that bet here. Obviously, we are well pot committed at running back with Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane. So not going to look at RB for a while, but not only did we go hero RB, I've lived up to the premise of the video once again. We've exceeded expectations, and we've gone Bimodal RB here. We're going to make that work. Stream drafts are negative EV, but it could be helpful if you're in a room of randoms. Yeah, I mean, it would be helpful to be in a room full of randoms. I do think the one thing for stream drafts in general, whether you are somebody like me in a stream room who's hosting the show, or even if people hop in, when you get in July and August, I think especially like July period where there's not big news items that drive guys up all of a sudden in certain rooms where people are paying attention more to the Tank Dells, the Puka Nakuas, the Kyron Williamses that pop up in August that aren't there at other periods. Let's assume that's not the case. In general, people will stay in their lanes a little bit more. So that's the positive in a stream room in July and August. But this low information period, there's only so many people in the world that are aggressively following every bit of football info out there. And if you're one of those people and you're also a content creator, like you're losing EV just from your own work and what you're hopefully doing by every day or every whatever, putting out good takes, giving people updates. So like you kind of reap what you sow with it. If you create a sharp community, you're going to get sharp drafters. And then if you're streaming with them all the time, you're going to lose, fractional amounts of EV over the course of that. Doesn't mean you can't build good teams, but you do lose EV. Never once lost EV, I'm sure. Adam, I've seen your drafts. But no, Adam does a good job drafting as well. Of course, you guys saw him on stream last month. This month, again, we'll have a new guest host coming up in the middle of the month. So good time to get your entries in. I'll leave it in the pinned comments. 7-day free trial of Probably on the App Store. But also, if you leave me 5 stars interview on there, helps out the app, but also gets you entered to win a guest hosting spot. And we're going to give another one away in about 12 days here on the channel. So stay tuned for that one. Of course, we had Bindles this last time out. We've had Adam on. We've had Chunk the Deuce on. A lot of our good regulars on. And we'll have everybody who leaves me 5 stars interview from Splash Play will be on before the end of the summer. That is a promise here. It'll probably be during the marathon drafts I'll do in August. But stay tuned for that one. And, of course, hit that 5 stars interview when you check the pinned comments down below for old Probably. My sports betting app, which is crushing, by the way. Plus 1,000 on Colt Keith home run on Friday. I'm also 4-1 in the NBA bets I put in the email that went out to everybody on Friday as well. WNBA, I'm now, I think, 10-1 on the year on bets, which doesn't feel possible. But again, WNBA line's not that efficient, so it's going to be what it's going to be. Would have been pretty nice if Tank Dell had fallen back, though I guess Mr. Poopy Butthole probably would have scooped him up as well. So no major loss there. And you are getting a custom preview here of my rankings. I guess not custom because everybody's seeing it at once, but you are seeing my rankings on the screen right now, which had some pretty big movements this past week. And I acquiesced on a few guys, finally moved AR and Stroud back down, though I still have them ahead of ADP, so you can hopefully get them in most drafts if you do want to. But that's really the biggest move there. And I had a lot of micro ones as well. And I finally updated my blurb for Travis Kelce to fully reflect how down I am on what he's doing this entire offseason. So lots to check out in the Spags rankings if you join down below for $4.99 a month. And T. Higgins, I've ranked in the 50s. So Mr. Poopy Butthole doing that has no impact on me. We need to make it up at receiver, even though I do like Trey McBride. He'd be my highest ranked guy. Jacobs as well. ATN would all be ranked higher than the receivers I have here. Are we going to tempt me with a good time? No, let's diversify a little bit. I do want to try to dial back. I want to force myself to dial back my Jaden Daniels over enthusiasm if I can. We see Jaden Daniels come back to me, or we see Terry McLaurin come back to me, and then Jaden Daniels aligns. Like, I'm still going to take Jaden in rooms if he's where he needs to be. But I do want to make this a week where I relax a little bit on Jaden just because I love McLaurin. I'm taking McLaurin a little bit earlier. I think he's ranked higher than some of these guys for me, so that's part of my logic there. When I take McLaurin, I'm then going to get to Jaden Daniels. So I'm going to keep making them bet, and I would like to have some ability there. As our guy Ross points out, good discipline. You got to force yourself sometimes to beat your own priors, beat your own stuff. And if I get McLaurin at 53, we'll reevaluate there. But at 44, I want to diversify, and Kirk is definitely on the way up right now. My new favorite metric is, I'm not even going to read that. Completely made up that supports my take. There you go. Look, you know, the ones I swear by: target per outrun, EPA. Those are the two. EPA, of course, being the highest among everything. And then, you know, ADP, if we're talking all the acronyms, that's the most important one at the end of the day. But Best Ball Mania this year, when you do the work, do you think you got to sometimes be willing to get outside of the straight ADPs? Mr. Poopy Butthole's first BBM draft. All right, there we go. I appreciate Mr. Poopy Butthole. I'm glad to be a part of your virginity being taken in BBM. But yeah, you know the deal here. I'm never going to be excited to see regulars in a draft for the reasons I outlined. If I've done my job here, you're all smarter for the experience. And I don't want you. I don't fucking need you if you're in a draft room if you're smarter. That's ultimately it. And I believe enough in my ability to coach people up based on what I've seen from guys last year who I really knew their portfolios and saw the growth in it. And I'll point out a guy, Robert Griffin III in chat as well. Like, I see his teams this year, and they're infinitely better than we first started talking at the beginning of last year. You know, like, we don't talk enough about the team review stuff, but like, I know that part's been a helpful part for some people out there. So at the end of the day, like, if you're a member here, you're taking advantage of all the perks, DMing me your 10 teams for reviews a month, and you're using my rankings and whatever, and you're in the Discord, I think you're going to hopefully have an edge. I mean, that's the premise here, I would think. All right, we're on the clock here again. Stroud comes back to us so we can correlate for Houston. The issue is we'd be buried even more at receiver, which would make that tough. Mr. Poopy Butthole likely would scoop up Stroud if he goes to him. We don't really have a need for Mixon. This is tough. This is tough. I'm going to take Hollywood Brown. As I've mentioned, I do like Hollywood Brown more than I did to start the process. I think Kyle Pitts would have been a valid pick there. Stroud obviously would have been valid with our bet on Diggs. Mixon would have been valid if we didn't have two young elite running backs above. Mixon, of course, you're making a bet on Houston, or even if you just want to make a bet on Houston, the guy who's going to scoop up a lot of the TDs is a big part of that. So Joe Mixon to me would have been a fine pick as well. But instead, we'll pass the value down. Mr. Poopy Butthole gets Stroud at ADP with his bet on Nico Collins. And Bob Hale here becomes a member. Hey, Bob, welcome to the family, Bob. I hope it hails money for you this year in best ball with all the data, all the tools, all the analysis you'll get here on Splash Play. But thank you for your support here. I think you're helping us close in on 100 members of the channel, which is the next goal to hit. So please, you guys join down below and shout out Bob. Welcome to the family, Bob. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Welcome to the family. Thank you, Bob. Of course, when you join live on stream, I have no choice but to desecrate my ancestors' desire to assimilate to America. No, instead we turn them into caricatures here on stream. But of course, Bob now, as part of that membership, gets my rankings, which get updated weekly. Got updated yesterday. He also gets 10 team reviews a week from me, or not a week, 10 team reviews a month from me here. So Bob, if you want to send them in on Discord at Chris Spags or on Twitter, my Instagram is down right now because Instagram is fucking stupid. And my old Facebook page at one point had an article about travel prostitution long after I wasn't involved with the site Guyism that I once founded. They've like took down my page for human exploitation, which I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, I go on Instagram to get DMs from my wife of like an Instagram reel of an alligator or something. And to occasionally look at titties. Two things I'm used to, really, not enough to get suspended in any real way, but you can't send them in on Instagram right now. Send them on Discord or Twitter if you want to send me team reviews. For the team reviews, I realize I focus more on advancement than week 17, which is a flaw. I mean, that's something that I think is a big flaw of a lot of people out there. There's a guy who went viral this weekend. I think Pete talked about him on his stream as well, who's drafting exclusively 3 elite QB teams. And that might not even help your advance rate, to be honest. I think if anything, based on the historical data, that's probably going to crush your advance rate. But for that guy, like he's thinking, oh man, I'm going to win my pod because I'm going to gain a couple points a week at QB. And it's like, dude, like you might be doing stuff that you think is helping your advance rate, or even things like Adam's doing, which will help his advance rate, but you're playing more towards a median outcome. When for anytime you're drafting a team, we're trying to play towards the ceiling outcomes. We're trying to play towards being able to win week 17, be able to win that 500 person, whatever it is at the end, more on DraftKings. So that's the goal here for everybody with the approach. And that's, to tie into the name here, splash plays in football are the big plays. A splash play for your draft portfolio is you're playing to get the 80-yard touchdown that what your team is. You're trying to get that in week 17. We're not trying to get first downs. We're trying to get, the big play. But yeah, I'm glad to hear Adam's gotten some value out of it. And again, I think there's enough people that give me kind words that I feel pretty strongly about it and the value you'll get. AR goes at 66, which is just a bad ADP. I would have had to take him at 68 just to end his suffering, just to put him down like old Yeller by putting him on my squad. AR, though, I think the steam's going to come at some point. At a certain point, people will realize that. I think it was JJ Zacharyson that had a tweet out. I saw a tweet this morning. I forget who to attribute it to, so I apologize. But AR had more rushing production in his 4 games of football than I think all but 10 other QBs in the league at the entire year. So AR falling in drafts, if you see him fall in a draft, call an adult, tell somebody, but don't let him do it. We're going to take Brian Thomas here. Going to increase the bet on Jacksonville. No bringbacks for Tennessee yet, but that's okay. Brian Thomas, I'm excited to take. I think him being in that McConkey, Keon Coleman tier is only a matter of time as the biggest threat in the red zone for Jacksonville. Also the best downfield threat they have. The ball will move with Christian Kirk, but the ball will score with Brian Thomas. And I think that's a big thing I'm looking for, obviously, with any player. Adequate distribution of draft capital plus ADP value equals higher advance rate. Week 17 is just gravy. Yeah, I mean, look, I still think fundamentally I'm willing to sacrifice a few points of advance rate for teams that are going to be more potent heading into week 17, whether that be through uniqueness, whether that be from loading up a receiver more. To me, the end goal is to build the best, the Pat Corrine article he did about the guitars and building guitars from special wood and whatever, that was obviously just all a metaphor for talking about getting the best team you can into week 17. And it is a sliding scale of balance where the team has to be able to advance. That's one of my flaws, in my portfolio last year, and especially the year before last, where I went a little bit too thin at running back. And you can go thin at running back, but really you still have to acknowledge the fact that with running back ADPs coming down, there are going to be guys like hopefully for me, like a Montgomery, like a Mixon, like guys that I think are kind of gross as a concept, but the production is there and they have a market cornered for some share of an offense is going to be good. You have to sort of be willing to get some of those guys in the mix. And then you take your flyers on rookies late. You take your flyers on who you think can be Kyron Williams late, theoretically. But you still need to have guaranteed production. So I think that's the sliding scale that I've learned. But obviously, you don't know what the sliding scale is going to be in a given year until that year actually plays out. So we'll see. Scarfa, my first BBM draft done. Oh, never mind. I don't want your Virginia. Up to 35 drafts. That's not doing anything. No 5-star ratings on Android right now. We're going to do a Google Play version probably at some point this summer, but it's not highest priority yet because there's a million other things to do, including shit that randomly breaks, like people starting a trial on the App Store and then they want to upgrade to something. And it's that's a hassle. Everything's a hassle. It's what you learn in app development. Falling Alvin Kamara. Of course, we've made our RB bets for right now. We're not going to do that. I think I'm going to go for the Jacksonville gusto here and really try to corner the market. Trevor Lawrence is going to get paid $50 million a year. So we have to adjust to that reality. Does it mean that he's worth $50 million a year? Was Jared Goff worth $50 million a year? No. But I think that with that being the reality here and with there being enough weapons in Jacksonville, as I mentioned, I love Brian Thomas. I do think that Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram are going to really dominate between the 20s in terms of what that market share is for them on Jacksonville. So I like Jacksonville as a concept. I just don't like Doug Peterson as a coach who gets less effective every year with where he's been, his 2 major stops. And also for Lawrence, who I think people just think is good and he's not great, but he's young enough that he can make a leap. We're going to make a bet on the leap here. You always want to have the best wood in guitar building, best ball, and otherwise. It's true. That's true. You always want to bring quality wood to the table, both metaphorically and literally, if you're building a table. On a team like this, how much are you willing to pull up your stack QB a full round? No. I still take guys where, especially for, no, even honestly, if I didn't make a bet on Trevor Lawrence, I would make a bet on somebody else and feel the same way. I would just have the stack then without the QB getting there. So obviously you're making your bet a little bit tougher to hit because then you want to add some more stacks on top of it. But I wouldn't go reaching around ahead for anybody unless it's a guy that I just think is misvalued. And I don't think Trevor Lawrence is like that misvalued. I do have Trevor Lawrence, I think, ahead of market, but not too much ahead. I've got Trevor Lawrence at 118. He's at 120. But that's about as much. My rankings are about as high as I'm willing to go for guys generally. Trevor's underperformed given his expectations. Still think he's got time to improve. I think the issue for him, and this is what I saw with his numbers coming out of college, which, was hard to go with fully, honestly, giving my full throat behind it. Because number one, where I was in my analysis, where that was like year one, I was starting to really dig in on this stuff more. Trevor Lawrence to me looked like a pure system QB coming out of Clemson. Like I thought he was creating a lot of yards after catch opportunities, creating a lot of short range accuracy that was leading to big plays. He wasn't even getting the ball downfield that much. So he wasn't the kind of player I look for where you're getting crazy rushing upside. You're getting then a lot of downfield aggressiveness. That to me is where I think that he's always struggled. So the system has to be good. I have questions about Jacksonville's system being good, but they have enough talent to make sense of it. Logically, you have underneath guys and a couple of over the top guys. So there's a really foolproof way to build this offense around that should be good for Trevor Lawrence, but he's got to come through and the offense has to be schemed well. And that's where I have some questions, some critiques, but we'll see. Yeah, I'm not worried about getting sniped. You want to soak up the value. It depends on the situation, obviously. But if there's like 8 QBs, I'm not going to reach for Trevor Lawrence. It's situational. Like on the draft I did on Saturday, it's like I waited on Ben Sinnott because I saw that there was Taysom Hill, there was Luke Musgrave and Ben Sinnott on top of tight end. So even if people are going to take tight ends, or maybe they'll take yours, but you just want to squeeze the most value you can out of the situation. All right, you have 0-2-4-1 here. Big bet on Jacksonville, obviously not something where I would reach. Najee at a discount is not bad. Kind of like Zach Moss for this build. We're going to go with our third running back here. Could have reached up at wide receiver. Could have also taken Jaden Daniels, which I have to admit, I think still makes sense because of the bet that we have on Bijan Robinson. We're not going to do that right now. Most time, if you corner a team, you can push them. That is true. That's why we do that. Najee was Najee was KC correlation. I'm taking too much Najee, and I want more Zach Moss, but that was a bias thing kicking in for me. I had to move Zach Moss up in my rankings because I'm not getting enough of him right now. I think he and Chase Brown should be priced within like a 5-pick range. They're priced with a 20-pick gap. Actually, no, I think a 30-pick gap right now because Chase Brown's at 120 and Zach Moss is at 90. So that's why I took Zach Moss there, but you're right that would have been a week 17 correlation. So it's on me for not taking that week 17 correlation. I want more Moss, and I'm not dying for more of Najee necessarily. All right, Jaden Daniels goes, so we don't even have to worry about it now. Though I would question putting Jaden ahead of Jordan Love. That feels like the line for me of that starting to make less sense. All right. We can shore up running back. Really nothing. I do want to get more Khalil Shakir in my life, and I kind of think he's an ideal wide receiver 5. I've got him right with market at ADP, but with wide receiver being bled out, still want to get 5 receivers through the top 100 picks if we can. We got him at pick 101. So Khalil Shakir last year put up a 0.7 EPA per target, which is crazy for a guy that actually had legitimate work. I always say that about Shakir, but it is legit crazy. And now it's a vacated target room overall at receiver. So we'll take the bet on Shakir. Team so far is a 0-3-5-1, so we need to grab some QBs later on. We got Bijan, Devon Achane, Zach Moss. We got wide receiver Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, and Hollywood Brown on every platform, by the way. So one of the data providers changed his name from Marquise to Hollywood Brown officially. Brian Thomas and Khalil Shakir at wide receiver. And at tight end, we have Evan Ingram. So Got the Jacksonville triple. Hopefully we'll be able to get Trevor Lawrence at a reasonable ADP. Still willing to take him ahead of ADP at pick 116 next time up. And we could push him to 125 if we want. But hopefully logical heads will prevail. We'll not get sniped on Trevor Lawrence in this room. Zach Moss and Zeke feel like could be this year's Mostert. Maybe. I don't know if either offense will be that great to get there, but I think similar opportunity, sure. I don't think you're looking at, 20 touchdowns or anything like whatever Mostert had last year. But, probably more of a share, perhaps. I guess you could hope more of a share than we saw Mostert have at times where Achane was going off. So, yeah, not the craziest bet. I don't know if it's 1-to-1, though. Think Moss will turn back into a pumpkin like he was in Buffalo? I don't think so. He looked legitimately pretty good. The analytics didn't bear out in any major way from in Indianapolis. Where was he last year? I think he was like a negative EPA per rush guy. Zach Moss. Yeah, negative 0.05 EPA per rush, negative 0.05 EPA per pass, which is like pretty close to dead average. But Joe Mixon was around that range as well. Mixon last year was at negative 0.03 EPA per rush, negative 0.05 EPA per pass. So they're basically, in terms of what they produced last year, they're basically the same player. So can he do what Mixon did last year and have occasional big touchdown upside and be able to soak up the 3.5 red zone rushes a game that Mixon leaves behind, plus maybe 0.8 red zone targets, which I think more likely to go to Chase Brown. But still, like if he just gets the Mixon role, he's undervalued. But it's not the most exciting play in the world. It's more of like a Mike Davis getting a role kind of play than it is we're targeting this really high upside player that's going to come in the future. But we'll see. He's reasonably hit double-digit 1.5 yard TDs. That's what I agree. 1 to 5 yard TDs. And honestly, 1.5 yard TDs is probably his best case. But yeah, like the easy ones, he struggled at a little bit in Indianapolis too, where there were a couple times, I remember in particular, one of the Zach Moss chalk DFS weeks where he just got stonewalled at the goal line 4 times in a row. I feel like it might have been the Bengals. I forget who he played, but ironically might have been the Bengals. But there was some game where he just got completely shut out of the red zone and like had the work to get there. So Zach Moss himself maybe has some flaws as a red zone back, but he's enough of a mix-in that I think that's what you're getting. Might have been the Tennessee game. That's right. Give me the olds. This is a year. Look, I don't love running back olds. This is a year where I think running back olds have a little more merit than most. Okay, so do kind of think that you could make a bet on Chase Brown. Also, kind of think I might be able to push Trevor Lawrence all the way around. But for the sake of our guy D. Owens, we'll show that Trevor Lawrence at pick 116, when you have the triple, probably more valuable to you than anybody else. And I think no matter what, we're getting a decent running back pushed back, or we have to reach up at wide receiver. So nothing affects me there too much. Could have taken AD Mitchell for an Indianapolis correlation for Jacksonville. No, you know what? They don't have one in week 16. Yeah, no, it's Indianapolis and Tennessee. Never mind. Yeah, there's nothing we could do really there. Would have correlated in a meaningful enough way besides trying to corner the market on the Bengals backfield. So Trevor Lawrence at QB. We got Bijan, Devon Achane, Zach Moss at running back. Receiver, we've got Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, and Khalil Shakir. At tight end, we have Evan Ingram. So we got the Jacksonville triple. No good Tennessee parts. So the week 17 game stack part of it, not the strongest, but we'll survive. Love it when a plan comes together. Yeah, the only way it could have been a little bit better is pushing Lawrence to 125, but I didn't feel like I needed to do it today. Especially when I just watched that Pete stream, and Pete did get himself boxed out of most QBs. I think for me, Lawrence at 116, I could have him priced up to 110, and I wouldn't hate it. So him at 116 feels okay. Bijan Achane started sweet. No need to rush into mid-tier running backs. That's true. If you make the bet that early on Bimodal RBs, you definitely got to be willing to live with them and hope they're going to have historical years. And both guys talented enough that I would think they can make that bet. Or you can make that bet rather with some amount of comfort and confidence at that. All right, so Jacksonville plays Vegas and Tennessee. So the one thing, knowing that we had Jacksonville, maybe would have made more sense in hindsight to take Devontae Adams and have him be our little bring back for Jacksonville, but that's okay. Brandon Cooks, I would have ranked highly here, but he doesn't correlate with anything. Blake Corum can be an okay running back play, though not the most exciting one in the world. Actually going to take Jahan Dotson for a little week 17 micro with, so I'm still getting a share of Washington's offense. I'm not playing it through the main way I like to play it, which is with Jaden Daniels, but we'll say maybe Jaden Daniels doesn't hit in the way I want, or maybe he can't win week 17 and Jahan Dotson still has enough production throughout the year to make it useful. So Jahan Dotson comes on down to me, and I'm okay with that one. And of course, he does correlate with Bijan Robinson here for week 17. The only new things, Achane won't have more than 50% of the work the Miami backfield. I think his best case outcome is like 60%. But the 60% could be so explosive that it doesn't really matter. I did actually want to talk a little bit about guys like Achane today when I was thinking through items just to discuss throughout the show today. Because it occurred to me when I was ranking Isaac Guerendo, who Guerendo I put up now just outside the top 200 in my ranks because of the fact that he's had some positive signal from San Francisco in terms of how they want to use him. And also for the fact that Guerendo, the fastest running back to ever come out via the combine testing, for him, like he's a track back is what he is. He's a guy that's got track speed, who's done track in the past. The team that unearthed track backs and made him a thing. And I know you can point to like guys like Chris Johnson, even Kamara earlier in his career. But like the first real track back that I think of, a guy that wasn't a real good football player, but was just fast enough and used in the right way, was Raheem Mostert. So I think like there's some utility in taking just the track backs more because they seem to hit at a high rate. Like Achane was a track back as well. And now we see Miami kind of cornering the market on these guys who are just straight line fast, maybe lacking in the rest of the stuff you need to be a running back. Jalen Wright's the exact same thing too. He's a track back. I think that having those guys in your portfolio a little bit more, they hit at a better rate, I think, at least in this modern NFL, than just like well-rounded backs do. So tying into the Achane thing, really, this was the main point here. The risk you run is that Achane is a track back. He's not like great at everything. He's just good enough and crazy fast. And then you could have Jalen Wright be a track back for, 10 snaps a game, 10 touches a game if they wanted. So that's like the biggest risk for Achane, is that these guys are all kind of the exact same archetype. But Miami's building the exact archetype, and maybe Achane's the best out of them. And that's the hope you're going to run with that. But I think honestly though, like the track back thing is one thing where I haven't fully fleshed out like what the take on that is, but I think it does make me more willing to take a shot on Guerendo than Mitchell late. And I do think it probably means like you take a shot on Jalen Wright because he's slower than Achane, but he's like right in that range that they could use him in that way. Josh Norris's Guerendo comp is Christine Michael or Michelle. Historically elite athlete, maybe not the best football player. He's got potential for sure. I don't see the stylistic comp with that because Guerendo's not like Michael/Michelle was just like a pure power back, was he not? So I don't know. I don't see it. He had good straight line speed, I guess, but he wasn't like that fast. Guerendo is like, blink of an eye fast, and I don't think he runs with much power. Granted, I've not gone deep enough on Guerendo, I guess, to say that with full confidence. And I do like to only give my takes like that when I have the full amount of confidence. But that's how I see it. Okay, so I think there's some interesting things we could do here. This is a pretty big fall for Corum. As we all know, I am not the biggest Blake Corum guy, but if you're going to get him at 140, I think that's where you take him in a 4 RB build like this one. So Blake Corum, come on down. This is the one way I'll take you enthusiastically is 18 spots after ADP. Even I moved up Blake Corum, and I hate Blake Corum. I think that he represents an elevated handcuff play for the Rams right now. I've got him at a 124 rank. He's normally going at 122. So going at 140 feels right to me. More than right, even. Yeah, honestly, him going in this pocket with Marshawn Lloyd, with Charbonnet, with Miller, this is the right pocket for him. But the ADPs don't align with that normally. Guerendo equals Dre Archer. No, I really think for Guerendo, it is like a Mostert comp. I don't think he's like great at football, though his EPA metrics were like not bad in a way that I would want to like shit on him or anything. I think he's just Mostert. He's like raw like Mostert, maybe a little bit less raw than Mostert. The issue is like he's blocked by the best back in football, the most trusted back in football. So what like him being good might not even matter because of the trust they have on McCaffrey. If McCaffrey holds out, they'll see because that'll certainly make it a little more appealing. Would have taken Mooney if he had come back to me. He does not. Really nothing here. Correlation, not the most exciting for the team so far. We have the bet on Buffalo. We'll do a little micro correlation, I think. Though honestly, Leggett as a discount feels pretty good for wide receiver 7. The issue for me is like there are wide receivers for correlation I can take late, but I was thinking about Ray Davis and like what does Ray Davis do for this team at this point? He would shore me up as RB5, maybe make me done at running back, but I don't think I need to be done at running back. And there's also a running back I can correlate with Jacksonville late. So we're not going to go that way. We're going to instead flesh out receiver further. We started receiver late because we went by modal RB. So always a little tough for me to hit these pockets when I do go by modal RB, something that I don't have a ton of comfort with. We have Trevor Lawrence at QB, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Zach Moss, Blake Corum. So 2 week 12 buys, 2 week 6 buys. So we definitely need at least one more running back, I feel like, to give us a shot at filling out the flex for those weeks. Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, Khalil Shakir, John Dotson, and Xavier Leggett, and a tight end, Evan Ingram. So we're live for Carolina, Tampa Bay correlation late. We're live for a bunch of different stuff late, I suppose. But really, Tennessee guys are the priority, I think, of trying to get a little bit later, just to give us some sort of bring back. And then I do think Tank Bigsby would be a good add at running back as well, whether we go to 5 or 6, probably 5. Like it's great for a late Bryce. Yeah, that's true. We do have another out there for a secondary stack. But some speculation they could use Garendo like Debo if they trade Debo. Yeah, I think I agree with Ben's take. Debo's not getting traded till next year. Yeah, I would say for Garendo, I think the best case is you're getting him to have Eli Mitchell's workload the year before last, but then those touches have a lot more juice. Like maybe he's not getting the goal line stuff that Eli Mitchell got, but he's getting between the 20s kind of plays that he can break if he reads the hole right, and then he can just take over with his speed. And also with that too, like again, why the Niners were so good at getting Mostert going, why the Dolphins were so good at getting Achane going, and why they'll probably do the same thing with Jalen Wright is because they scheme up really good open-ended run plays where they're pushing the guy through power runs to like open spots in the field. And that's something too where I do think that you might find a little more value. So Ray Davis came all the way back. I think at this point, I would be foolish to not take him given that I thought he was valuable at that last pick. So we'll take Ray Davis here as our RB5. Again, still need to solve the QB conundrum later on, but I'm not terribly worried about that yet. We have a 1-5-7-1 bimodal RB build, so we've gone double hero RB. We've got the Avengers at running back here. Got Trevor Lawrence, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Zach Moss, Blake Corum, Ray Davis, Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, who's no longer a junior, by the way, an underdog as well, Khalil Shakir, Jahan Dotson, Xavier Leggett, and Evan Ingram is our tight end. So a Jacksonville triple. No bringbacks yet. We got a Buffalo mini here. Not the best like matchy week 17 correlation stuff besides Bijan and Jahan Dotson. Didn't do any KC Pittsburgh. So I like the triple stack though with some of the stuff we have, but I think the team is lacking a little bit in just like as I talk about here, the Marie Kondo of it all, the organizing well where you have your full game stack for week 17, ideally a second game stack for week 17 where we're talking at least 2 pass catchers and a bring back from the opposing team with both your QBs, and then also tacking on a few mini week 17 correlations to try to capture some positive game environments and guys that could be good all year. So we're lacking in that as much as I'd like to see. I think part of that as well might be because of going 2 running backs early, but that's neither here nor there. I didn't ask at any point during the video, guys, so please do subscribe down below, hit the like button, leave a comment. Again, on Mondays, we get steamrolled by the Pete Overs at Circus. They're the best show in town. I'll fully give him all his credit for that with Sean Siegel, with Corain. I don't know the guy. I think it's Reeves, actually, who I love as well, doing the 4th hour there. So check that out after this stream. But for right now, we're showing up and doing the work here Monday to Saturday at 11 a.m., doing drafts every single day. And that's why it's draft number 91 or 92 for me on the year, because I'm doing these drafts every single day. So you're going to see more hours of stream content for me than anybody else in the business right now. All right, so we have potential for a Carolina bet late. Tampa Bay running out of options as well. Thielen would also work if we do build that out. Let's do the Thielen. Let's do the Thielen part. No, let's not do that. Let's go Cade Otton for this. I'm not taking a lot of Cade Otton. Doesn't excite you very much. I honestly question what the potential is, but we need a second tight end. I think we're going to end up possibly with Bryce Bryce Young is one of our bailouts at QB late because we lost out on Troy Franklin, so we can't set up Denver, Cincinnati now. We can't set up a lot of shit. So we're going to go with K-Dot and not worry about it. And we have some sort of Carolina Tampa Bay correlation, maybe more if we add Bryce later on. Shout out to guys, Sammy here. I appreciate that super chat a bunch. One of our regulars here. Thank you for that. Always glad to hear from Sammy, the highest energy man in the biz, representing North Wakanda. I forget what, North Tawanda or whatever, somewhere in Buffalo. I try, Sammy. I don't know the actual name, but I appreciate you. Going back and forth between me and Pete, as you all should do. You should have Pete in one hand, me in the other, and you just go back and forth between streams. You go, hey, give me that info. Give me that sweet info, guys. Blah, 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 blah. That's what you should be doing here on Mondays. Got Tyler here. There we go. Tyler, I gave you something you wanted, and I didn't even see you in the room. That's really how we should approach, though, every time I'm competing against another quality stream. No, it's what you're doing. You're going, Pete in one hand, Spags in the other. Give me that. Give me that sweet info juice. That's what all you were doing. I know it. North Tonawanda. There we go. North Tonawanda, the lumberjack town, where Dexter would go to heal from all the pains of life and then get killed by his own son. Spoiler alert for a show that aired 3 years ago or whatever. Starting to hate waiting for a QB2 bailout in the late rounds. QBs taken around 16 to 18 become unpredictable, and players take uncorrelated QB3s at ADP. That's true. I mean, you're seeing Derek Carr go here, hopefully to somebody that has some correlation, but you might have. He's got Chris Olave. Okay, so that's his QB2. Took Derek Carr, so good pick by KC Chiefs in the 11 hole. But yeah, you see that happen. I can't sweat it that much because part of being willing to do that last year was what got me on Stroud a good amount. It was like people thought that Stroud was dead in the water. You know, granted, I took Bryce also, took him less than Stroud for sure, but also took him as a bailout. You know, I took Mac Jones as a bailout. So that's the downside is like, you're right. Some of them are not going to hit, but I do think if you're approaching it in a way this year in particular, where there are a few guys who are undervalued, I think Nix can have a good year from week one. I think that Bryce Young can have a good year from week one. I think those guys are still very valid late QBs. And Derek Carr for his role, like Clint Kubiak's going to get Taysom Hill in the mix more, but it doesn't sound like QB snaps for Taysom Hill. He's like, I think he's going to get more touches, but I don't think it's going to be from the QB position. And we saw them move away from Derek Carr giving up QB snaps at the end of last year to Taysom Hill. Like for him too, like he's got a merit. So I think it's about finding the positives in the late QBs, but certainly like guys like Daniel Jones, there's a big risk there. If he plays half the snaps, his injury guarantee kicks in. You have the big risk for Justin Fields and Russell Wilson on the flip side of that, where Fields can't play more than half a year for the same thing, but also Russell Wilson, or for the draft pick going up in his case. For Russell Wilson, though, like, you know, he might play the whole year. He might sit for Justin Fields because they want to see what he has. I think it's more likely he plays the whole year than not, but that's still a risk. Las Vegas, we talked about. Minshew and O'Connell are right now coin toss bets each to start for week one. I still would favor Minshew because of the money, but O'Connell's apparently playing well enough in camp that they're comparing him to guys like Kirk Cousins was the comp, which I don't know how they saw that after year one, but maybe they're seeing it now. All right, we have a 1572 here. Things we could do theoretically, but like we, at this point, need to just get some stacks going. All right, so do I want to add Chuba Hubbard to this bet? Do we risk it? What do we think? I mean, they say no risk it, no biscuit. I find it hard to believe that both Bryce Young and Will Levis will go late. I'm going to take Chuba, who I do think has a role alongside Jonathan Brooks in his recovery and maybe more of a role as the year goes on. So we're going to increase our Carolina Tampa Bay bet and hope we can push Bryce Young all the way around. And if we don't push him around, we could still do Will Levis and something late. Still do a few things a bit later on. That's going to be the hope that we have right now. A 1672. I'll read the team aloud to recenter myself here. Try to land the plane. So we have one QB. It's Trevor Lawrence with a week 12 bye week. So we would be okay with any of the QBs left on the board if we take them. Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Zach Moss, Blake Corum, Ray Davis, and Chuba Hubbard here. Didn't need to get to 6 with the 2 RBs that we have up top. But I do think that with Corum, who could be a 0 week 17, I don't think it's You think he's going to have a share of that backfield, but I don't think he's going to have as much as his ADP currently says. Ray Davis could have a good share of the backfield, could be a 0 week 17. Chuba, I think, has a part of the backfield to give me some, at least some projection heading into week 17. So that's my logic there, even though obviously we expect Bijan and Achane to be making the lineups more weeks than not. Wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, who's not a junior anymore. I'm only really fixated on that because for some reason this week, a bunch of juniors lost their junior in their names, including Marvin Harrison Jr. So I had to change all the shit in the Spags rankings to get things to the line right. So it stands out for me, may not for you. Khalil Shakir, Jahan Dotson, Xavier Leggett. So micro correlations for those guys. Bryce Young goes to Alex Keaton, who is a regular, and I hate him for doing that to me. But he needed a second QB for himself. So suck a dick, Alex. But nonetheless, he takes Bryce Young and Evan Ingram and Cade Otton here. So we're going to have to tack on another stack late because my arrogance cost me Bryce Young there. If you could, what a sentence. But unbelievable. Can't talk about anything on a fucking stream, can we? At this point, we still have Tank on the board. Tank would be a good pick. You know what? If ever there were a time to just do one fucking QB and live with it, this is it. But I'll take Will Levis. I'll take fucking Will Levis. My heart says Tank Bigsby. My head says take Will Levis and give yourself a shot at points in week 12. So we'll take Will Levis, 16 picks after ADP. Got Trevor Lawrence, Will Levis, Bijan, Devon Achane, Zach Moss, Blake Corum, Ray Davis, Chuba Hubbard, Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, Khalil Shakir, Jahan Dotson, Xavier Leggett, and a tight end, Evan Ingram and Cade Otton. Not my favorite team, if I'm being honest. Bimodal RB is just not fucking for me. I love those top two running backs. Then because of taking those two at the top two, I didn't take guys I felt good about as RB3. Moss, I feel okay about, but I still think Chase Brown's a better play in that backfield. The rest of the guys, we kind of talked about the no case for them as well. Those guys can hit, but I don't think they make me feel good enough for, two top running backs like Bijan and Achane. And especially for Achane, who I think still likely, like we talked about earlier, still likely to have ping-ponging great weeks. I think he's got some 10-point weeks in the bag that are not going to be that good, not going to help out the scene that much. But, Bijan, I think you're probably seeing more reliable 15 to 20 every week. So that's how I feel about the running back room. Part of why the bimodal hurt me more. If we're going to do bimodal in this build, I think that going Kyron at 29 would have been the better pick. And then maybe I could have added some more value here, but could have also had Devontae Adams at this pick, and that would have ended up correlating better. But that's okay. You live, you learn. Trailing time, maybe. Now that Tyler Boyd's gone, options are getting limited. Good God. Well, now we don't have multiple rounds, so no, that would not be it. I think AOC is more likely to lose the job in season than Minshew if he gets a week 1 nod. I don't know. He shouldn't get the week 1 nod then. The point of having the young guy come in is they lose the job, or the vet starts the year, then lose the job, and the young guy comes in with some confidence, changes the culture a little bit. That's the hope. If you start the young guy first, you're just kind of burying the team in a way that's not good. Obviously, Indianapolis had to do it last year with AR and Minshew because AR got hurt, but they didn't want to do it the other way because AR was good enough. I don't know. Based on what they're saying, and Minshew's had not the greatest camps, I think O'Connell starts, and I think he doesn't lose the job unless he gets shellacked. But Pierce being a loyalty guy and O'Connell having a few good games at the end of last year, unfortunately, I think it's going to be enough to put him over Minshew, even though I just don't get why you pay Minshew $15 million if you're bringing him in just to lose the job. But he's got to win it. You got to win jobs. All right, last pick coming up here. 2672 build. Honestly, I feel better about my receivers than I do my running backs, which is stupid given that I took 2 up top. But that sometimes is how it feels when you get guys who are a little bit thinner plays. All right, Bigsby goes there. Mr. Poopy Butthole scoops in, so that's now not even an option. Thank you to Mr. Poopy Butthole. Love regulars in the draft rooms. No Tyler Boyd. All right, this is it. The bet on Treylon Burks that everybody's been dying for. What a treat. So you have Tennessee correlation with Jacksonville on both sides of the equation. We're not getting game stacks as a result. We have a bunch of mini week 17 stacks. So that's the hope, I guess, is we can replace having a second game stack with just little ones that maybe hit. Final team here, 2-6-8-2. Trevor Lawrence, Will Levis at QB. Running back, Bijan Robinson, Devon Achane, Zach Moss, Blake Corum, Ray Davis, and Chuba Hubbard. Wide receiver, Stephon Diggs, Christian Kirk, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas Jr., who's not a junior, Khalil Shakir, Jahan Dotson, Xavier Leggett, and Traylon Burks to correlate with Will Levis, who I didn't really want, and Evan Ingram and Cade Otton. So we got scooped at QB. That weakened our correlation for Carolina, Tampa Bay. We could have instead then gone Bryce and gone with a Tampa Bay player, but Alex needed to get Bryce Young, so it happens. Yeah, the team's okay. Team's okay. Could be better. I think no matter what, we're leaving teams here. We're leaving streams here with teams that are functional. The team's functional. It just doesn't do much to stir my loins. But tomorrow, hey, I can shed the shackles of Hero RB. I'm going to draft maybe some Zero RB bullshit on stream here. But either way, new drafts Monday to Saturday, every day at 11 a.m. East Coast time. That is a promise here on Splash Play. We'll talk about the news. We'll talk about the contract things. Justin Jefferson with the big deal. CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, they're coming up next. We'll see if they exceed that number or if they come in just underneath. But always things to talk about football-wise here on Splash Play. We'll keep doing it every day. Use promo code SPLASH. Get $250 on bonus cash on Underdog right now. Of course, do that for yourself. This was instructional. That's all I can ever hope for a bet here. Go check out Probably as well. Really good time to hop in there. Again, hitting plus 1,000 home run bets. Also at a 60% win rate in the top 5, which has been like every day in the last month. It's so stupid because like a 3-2 thing in your top 5. It's not the shit that people are selling out there where they're selling locks, selling parlays or whatever. 3-2 days are what you need to stay profitable over the course of your entire life betting. So check it out. Probably.com/subscribe. Promo code SPLASH on there to get half off of a month or a year. It means getting all of our data for under $10 for your first month, under $100 for your first year. So you want to change your life in sports betting. You want to start winning more in sports betting, especially to build your best ball bankroll on sites like DraftKings. I would check out Probably's data. And of course, Stochastic as well, 15% off on there if you want to get any of their Sims tools. And that's any sport right now. Includes PGA, MMA, NASCAR, obviously MLB as well, whatever you want, 15% off. Check the link in the description for that one. And the last plug is for Drafters, $100 deposit match on there. Of course, streams every Saturday on Drafters where they're doing no pods, no playoff pods. You just get 17 weeks of results on there. Full point PPR. So check out Drafters with the promo code SPLASH. Get to a $100 deposit match. Thank you to the Squirt Squad. All these fine people have hit the join button. They get 10 team reviews a month from me, as well as a VIP Discord, and also my Spags rankings, which update weekly as well. And you can see also blurbs. I write up things every week. I think I put in 20 new blurbs this week. We now have over 250 blurbs for every player in a draft, representing, generally what my take is right now. So if you want to check that out, hit the join button down below for $4.99 a month. You help support the show as we close in on 100 members for the first time ever. And also you help support me putting on the show every day because frankly, YouTube doesn't pay you enough when you're just a moderately watched, but great information giving streamer here. Follow me at Chris Spags. Follow the show at Splash Play Pod. I'll be back tomorrow with more guys. So, hey, enjoy your days. Thank you for watching. Go check out the Pete Overs at Circus if you want some more best ball content. I'll see you again tomorrow. Enjoy your days. Good luck. Bye-bye.